Universal Ostrich Farms, you all know the story. This is the government. CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, which is supposed to inspect food, I guess. You know, I'm not sure what their mission statement is. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered a kill order of 400, at the time, is a little over 400, I think, ostriches, because they, two of them had tested positive for H5N1. 60 some odd died when it hit the flock, and the others survived and 9 months later are still alive and not infected. They issued a kill order in December of last year. The Universal Ostrich Farms took the decision of the administration, the administrative body, the CFIA, to federal court to get an injunction. They were enjoined from enforcing it. They had a whole hearing 3, 4, maybe even 5 months later. That was ratified. The federal court came out and said, yes, it was such an emergency at the time. The decision by the CFIA, an administrative body, was not fundamentally unreasonable, and therefore it's ratified and they can go in and kill these ostriches. I have been complaining about the fact that their tweets their accounts have been protected for a very long time. It's a government agency with a government checkmark on Twitter. And you see the little gray checkmark there. And I've been complaining about it for quite some time, that their tweets have been protected. And I said, no government organization that has a government checkmark on X should be allowed to protect their tweets. Almost by definition. It's not a private account. It's a public government account. They don't have any right to censor. They don't have any right to protect their tweets and say who can respond to them. And everyone's like, well, Viva, they've been protected since before this debacle. Well, I don't give a sweet bugger all when they decided to protect their tweets. They shouldn't be protected. I went back to double check now, and it seems that they're no longer protected, at least the president, Paul McKinnon, the man who is the president of the organization that now wants to slaughter 398 healthy, beautiful ostriches that have been in the family of Universal Ostrich Farms for 30 plus years. His tweets are still protected, but the agency themselves don't have their tweets protected anymore. They've just restricted who can and cannot reply to any of their tweets. Only accounts that @inspection mentioned can reply. That's as good as censorship. It should not be allowed. Any government account that has a gray check mark that is afforded only to government accounts should not be allowed to protect their accounts or to limit who can reply to their tweets, period. Oh yeah, so the bottom line is it goes through the court systems. It goes to the Federal Court of Appeal in Ottawa. The kill order has been ratified. CBC News. Government funded, taxpayer funded. I should say taxpayer funded, not government funded, because government doesn't have money. Maybe they do sometimes. You know, they have money from selling arms and selling drugs in inner cities. But what they're paying with now is taxpayer dollars. CBC News is taxpayer funded. What are they doing? Oh, look at this. Comments turned off. This is on CommiTube, so you would expect nothing less from CommiTube. This is a CBC News expose. And we're going to go through it. It's 5 minutes. I'm going to break it up into sections. This is a CBC News expose that is entitled, We Ask an Infectious Disease Experts. See, even they make typos. I judge them for their typos. We ask an infectious disease experts, or we ask infectious disease experts about Dr. Oz's ostrich claims. When the media is not the government I screwed it up. When the media has ceased being the government watchdog and started being the government lapdog, you have entered fascism. I mean, pretty much by definition. This is state-funded media from our taxpayer dollars, not mine anymore because I'm not paying taxes in Canada anymore, putting out an expose, the purpose of which is to basically brainwash the general public into supporting the government tyranny. State-funded by the government, $1.6 billion a year. Then they get indirect government subsidizing through ad dollars and all the other rest of it. Putting out a 5-minute piece to justify and try to brainwash the general public into accepting the government's tyranny to go slaughter 398 healthy ostriches. Let's play this through.
So this ostrich farm in BC has received a lot of love from Dr. Oz, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and a lot of other supporters. They all want to save a flock of 400 ostriches on a BC farm. But there's a catch. The birds were in contact with a deadly virus, H5N1, a type of avian flu. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency ordered the birds to be culled because of an outbreak in December of last year, where 69 of 468 ostriches died.
Very, very subtle. Yeah, December of last year.
That order led to a legal fight between the CFIA and the owner, Universal Ostrich. They say the ostriches shouldn't be culled because the remaining birds have survived the outbreak and could be studied. Since then, a number of claims have been made about the birds, including that they are unique in surviving H5N1. I asked an infectious disease veterinarian about that.
As expected, not everyone dies with influenza when it comes to ostriches. Different species have different responses to it, and we don't expect all individuals to die.
Vocal fry, driving me crazy. Scott Weiss, infectious disease veterinarian, University of Guelph.
And it probably worked its way through. The challenge is we don't know that, and influenza can circulate in individuals without causing signs of disease.
It probably circulated. We don't know that, except it's been 9 months. And yet somehow it might still be there, maybe. So kill them all. This is what they are expecting the public to believe. And if they don't believe it, they're going to manipulate them into thinking, well, hey, a professor at University of Guelph said as much.
But during court hearings earlier this year, the owner pleaded their case, claiming that the birds have herd immunity. But the infectious disease veterinarian says that's a tough claim to prove.
Think about us with influenza, right? We can get influenza a variety of times. Sure, you've survived influenza. You may be protected to some degree, but you certainly can't say this group of birds is never going to get influenza again.
So understand this, because they might get influenza again, kill them now. That will ensure that they never get it again. By the way, just, not for nothing, you know who the biggest funding of University of Guelph is? The University of Guelph is primarily funded through a mix of sources, including a significant allocation from the Ontario government, operational revenues, private sector funding, and various federal agencies, such as the Tri-Agencies and the Canadian Foundation for Innovation for Research. So you have right now, understand the full trifecta of fascism. You've got state-funded media using state-funded experts to ratify the state's decision to slaughter private property belonging to someone else in the absence of any need whatsoever. That is fascism, by definition, in its purest form.
Meanwhile, the former TV host and current administrator for the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, has claimed that the birds hold
huge scientific value to the global community
because they have survived the virus. But a virologist I spoke to said this wouldn't be new research.
People have done.
Listen to this. It wouldn't be new research to research on birds that have survived the H5N1. Why would it not be new research? Here's another one with a little vocal fry from the government. Where's she from? Hold on, we'll see. I'm not sure.
But a virologist I spoke to said this wouldn't be new research.
People have done experimental studies infecting ostriches with H5N1.
Virologist, University of Saskatchewan. I'll go see who funds their research.
Ostriches with H5N1 and other avian influenza subtypes. So you wouldn't really be learning necessarily anything new. So that part has certainly been overstated by Dr. Oz.
You wouldn't necessarily be learning anything new. So that part has been overstated. So it's still possible. It's still potential, but you wouldn't be learning anything new from them. So kill the healthy birds. Do you understand how this brainwashing works?
And other Trump officials like U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wrote in a letter to the CFIA that says he believes significant scientific knowledge may be garnered from following the ostriches in a controlled environment. But is that actually possible?
It's very difficult to test for influenza antibodies in almost any species because we've all been infected with flu so many times.
Pause. Then how did you diagnose them the first time? The two corpses that you tested with a PCR anal swab. If it's very difficult to test because we've all been infected, how do you even know that the tests from before were good? But hey, I'm not a CBC journalist. Why would they ask that question of the virologist from the University of Saskatchewan? Hey, good, interesting point. It's very tough to test if you've gotten influenza because we've all gotten it, especially when you have a PCR test that might be cycling through at rates that are picking from infections from a while back. How do you even know they had it in the first place? No, those tests were good. Kill them. Tests now to show that they don't have it. No good. Kill them. All roads lead to slaughter.
So the test you have to use to try to address some of the technical issues with this often require live virus in a containment laboratory.
All right. Here's a thought. Just let RFK Jr. deal with that and the farmers in America deal with that after you've shipped them to America. No, you can't have them. We want to kill them. We're not bringing them down to you. It's too logistically hard to test them. You're not going to learn anything new. You can't test for H5N1 because we've all been infected. So so we're killing them.
And I'm quite certain that the ostrich farm does not have access to that.
Survivors probably
Well, the ostrich farm might not have access to that. That's why RFK Jr. wants them, has asked for them.
have antibodies in them, just like you have antibodies if you've gotten through flu. So there's not really anything too unique about that. There have been a lot of comment
There's
about
not really anything too unique about that. That was from an episode of Family Guy, if anybody didn't see that one.
How these are important for research, valuable for research, but no one's actually ever said what, right? What are we actually going to get out of these individuals?
Oh, here, let me say it, because you're an idiot and the journalist is a propagandist piece of rubbish. We don't know what we're going to get out of it. What we're looking for is potentially useful antibodies that could be used to prevent or mitigate infection of H5N1 in the future, to the extent that this ostrich flock has survived H5N1. That's what we're looking for. You're not going to find that. We've got to go kill them.
And what value is there versus risk?
That risk is why the CFIA has ordered the birds to be culled in the first place.
That risk, which is now 9 months old.
H5N1 strain of avian influenza is currently being monitored worldwide. And while it mainly affects birds, it can spread to other animals and humans. BC has already been largely affected by a spread of avian flu, with over 8 million birds impacted.
I need to see something here. Hold on. Let me finish the
There
graph.
was also one human
8 million birds impacted.
case of H5N1 in BC.
Stop. Let me back this up. 8 million birds impacted. Does that mean they were slaughtered? What does impacted mean here? Number of domestic birds impacted by H5 subtype avian flu. What does that mean?
Million birds impacted.
And I'm not trying to be glib or facetious or a wordsmith of the devil. Does impacted mean that they were slaughtered because they were suspected of having come across, or they were slaughtered as a result of some in the flock having been diagnosed with H5N1? I don't even know how to determine what that means. If anybody wants to snip and clip this and ask the CBC, what does it mean when you say they've been impacted by H5 subtype? Does it mean that they've gotten sick and died, or does it mean that they've been slaughtered because of a cull order, which has now killed millions, resulted in the slaughter of millions and millions of birds and the jacking up of egg prices under the Biden administration, which they then blame on Trump? Set all that aside.
There was also one human case of H5N1 in BC earlier this year that required critical care in hospital.
By the way, I think I might be able to get this individual on the channel. I think, fingers crossed. I'm going to come back to this one single solitary case of H5N1 in Canada that resulted in hospitalization, because it also illustrates the fact that AI is becoming the tool of the propagandist fascist governments.
Along with some cases in the US, one resulted in death.
Ah,
The experts
one.
we spoke to say that the more the virus is spread, the more it could mutate and further affect livestock and humans.
Every time it jumps into a mammal, especially jumps into a person, it can change. And the big concern would be is if it combines with a mammalian virus. That's how we get pandemic flu viruses.
The CFIA
We better kill anybody who got infected. I mean, you don't want it morphing.
says the response to H5N1 is an approach known as stamping out. That response follows the CFIA's agreement with the World Organization for Animal Health.
World Organization for Animal Health dictating what the Canadian government does to private property in Canada. Is that not only is it fascist, but it's globalist fascist right now?
Canada is party to trade agreements, which essentially means that if there is an outbreak of H5N1 bird flu on a poultry farm, which ostriches are considered poultry, then the first line response to that is by culling the entire flock. And that's stamping out.
By the way, stamping out. 2 weeks to flatten the curves. What's what they're calling out in Nova Scotia, where they are kicking people or blocking people from the forest? Stamping out, flatten the curve. It's going to go from stamping out to H5N1 0, much like 2 weeks to flatten the curve turned into COVID 0.
Policy itself is really required, because this is the only way to prevent H5N1 from spreading. And when it does spread, especially to certain species of poultry, especially chickens and turkeys, it really wipes out the entire flock in a pretty gruesome way.
Understand this. It wipes out the entire flock in a pretty gruesome way. So let's wipe out the entire flock in a pretty gruesome way. These people are just in a cult of death and control and destruction. And what they want to do is literally kill people, which they're doing also in Canada, kill animals, and basically put a nation into a state of starvation. You want to know how millions and tens of millions people starved under communist socialist regimes? This is how. Oh my goodness, the H5N1, it will kill the flock in a gruesome way. So let's kill them now.
The experts I spoke to say culling is the typical method used when fighting an outbreak like this, but they say this case does raise questions about whether culling is the only option.
If you had a farm that said, okay, I've got influenza here, we're going to report this right away. We think we can avoid a cull. We want to talk about this. And while we're doing this, we're going to do everything possible to contain this virus. I can get on board with that. This situation is different, though.
And
Oh, really? Do you know anything about this situation, Mr. Reese? I don't think you do.
Says this case is different because according to court documents, the ostriches were in open pens with free access to wild birds and animals. Even after quarantine orders were put in place, inspectors noted wild animals were interacting with the ostriches and other safety measures weren't followed.
They've been showing pictures of themselves with the birds without PPE.
They've been showing pictures of themselves with the birds without PPE. PPE, which does nothing but set that aside, outdoors with healthy birds. How long do they have to wear PPE for, Mr. Dr. Reese?
Invited a convoy to the farm that's quarantined.
Invited a convoy to the farm. Wording is not accidental there.
Followed.
They've been showing pictures of themselves with the birds without PPE. They've invited a convoy to the farm that's quarantined. This is not a situation where you get confidence that they're doing what they can do to contain the disease while you're fighting this.
There is no disease while they're fighting this. Moron.
He says this particular case has gone beyond the typical response to control a disease outbreak.
It's moved away from disease control and the animals in a lot of ways to anti-government, anti-regulation, to a variety of other talking points beyond disease.
That is the hard work from the propagandists at CBC News. Ask none of the questions, and this is what they put out, and the amount of Canadians who watch this who are now going to say, yeah, what's the big deal? It's for the greater good. Better safe than sorry. Stay farther apart from each other. It's tyranny. And this is what's going on right now. Everybody's trying to get the bigger eyes on this, the biggest eyes on this, get Elon Musk to send up some Starlink, even though nobody needs the Starlink from Elon Musk, but a retweet to get the biggest eyes and the biggest bullhorns to put this on the biggest amplification humanly possible, because this is the absolute state of Canada. Sorry if that was a little long, people. We need to memorialize the insanity in real time. They want to kill everything, depop everything, says Yabba Duty. Locals, where we have a question from Shailina, says, just an observation. I've noticed they only seem to be culling chickens and these ostriches. Not all the ducks, migratory birds like geese. Duh, they're all fascists. Well, that's the ultimate irony in all of this. Is that they say you can't prevent anything outdoors from coming in contact with wild birds. And now, take it one step further. Dogs are outside. Cattle are outside. Are they going to slaughter entire cattle? I don't even know if that's the word. Slaughter cows, dogs, any animal that happens to be outside and come in contact with a bird? Oh, and by the way, just not for nothing, that one case out of Canada, I had to double check. There's no confirmation anywhere that it resulted from contact with a dead bird. And by the way, you want to understand how ChatGPT is worse than useless? ChatGPT is worse than useless. I mean, I think most people understand this now. I didn't understand it at first. It's only as good as the input. And basically the input is the CBC, is the national, is propaganda. So I asked ChatGPT. I said, the question was, I cut it off here, but this is the answer. I said, how did the person get H5N1, the Canadian case? And I gave the link. Thanks for the link. That case is from British Columbia, 2025. According to the Canadian health officials and the National Microbiology Laboratory, exposure history. The teen had been in close contact with sick and dead backyard poultry before falling ill. Understand the way that ChatGPT just told this to me. According to the Canadian health officials and the National Microbiology Laboratory, the teen had been in close contact with sick and deadly chicken. This wasn't a broad statement. This wasn't an ambiguous statement. This is according to the Canadian health official. And I said, that was not my understanding. Can you provide a link as evidence? I get back from ChatGPT, who basically just lied to me. Oh, yeah, according to the national thing there, the national data, the government, according to the government, the teen had come in contact with. You're right to press for clarity. I went back to your linked article. It does not say the British Columbia teen had backyard poultry exposure. Here's what the CIDRAP report actually stated. Health officials did not release details on the source of exposure, only saying that investigations were ongoing and that the case appears to be linked to animal to human transmission. Appears to be linked. They stressed there was no evidence to person contact. Good. And then I said, why did you initially tell me, it's a girl, he contracted it through contact with dead chickens. Good catch. Let me explain. When you first asked, I answered with the most common pathway for H1. No, you didn't. You specifically said, going back to it, you specifically said, according to the Canadian health officials and the National Microbiology Laboratory. And if I didn't know the answer to the question, I would have believed it. And anybody who doesn't know the answer to that question is going to believe it and will be lied to by an AI, whatever the hell, open language, large language model that is ChatGPT, that is fueled by the lies. And this is the next step of abject fascism and tyranny. Artificial intelligence repeating lies to you because it's fed by the government-funded lies. Appreciate how dangerous that is, people. Okay, that's all that we're going to talk about for the story. Snip, clip, share away, put it on blast. Let's see what we can do. You know, I have no problem eating ostriches. It's actually delicious meat. The eggs are delicious, a little fluffier than regular eggs. This is the government basically saying, we get to enter your property, kill your animals under the pretext of safety. And if they're outdoor animals, well, they're at more risk. All that we need is a complaint from a disgruntled neighbor. And we get to come in and kill your Peanut, kill your Fred, the raccoon, like they did in New York. Except this time it's 398 ostriches that were never intended for human consumption, have not been open to the public in damn near 5 years, I think, since COVID, and are healthy. But you got a virologist from University of Saskatchewan and a veterinarian from University of Guelph, state-funded, on state-funded media telling you, yeah, it's necessary under these circumstances. Nothing to see here. Go home. Let us kill your animals. Let me see what's going on in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Elan Hulkover says, don't think that it's kosher. No, ostriches are not kosher. By the way, stick around for the after party here. Today, it's going to be not behind a paywall because I'm using StreamYard. We've got a member of our locals community that's coming on for an interview. And it's going to be fantastic. His name is Elan Hulkover. He's got an amazing Substack. So stay tuned for that.